If you had met them at 5 or 6 years of age, you would have been overwhelmed by their curiosity and mental agility and sparkle. They were true outliers. The plain truth of the Terman study, however, is that in the end, almost none of the genius children from the lowest social and economic class ended up making a name for themselves. What did the C's lack, though? Not something expensive or impossible to find. Not something encoded in DNA or hardwired into the circuits of their brains. They lacked something that we could have given them if we'd only known they needed it. A community around them that prepared them properly for the world. The C's were squandered talent, but they didn't need to be. Today, Chris Langan lives in rural Missouri on a horse farm. He moved there a few years ago after he got married. He's in his 50s but looks many years younger. He has the build of a linebacker, thick through the chest with enormous biceps. His hair is combed straight back from his forehead. He's a neat graying mustache and aviator-style glasses. If you look into his eyes, you can see the intelligence burning behind them. A typical day is, I get up and make coffee. I go in and sit in front of the computer and begin working on whatever I was working on the night before, he said, not long ago. I found if I go to bed with a question on my mind, all I have to do is concentrate on the question before I go to sleep, and I virtually always have the answer in the morning. Sometimes I realize what the answer is because I dreamt the answer, and I can remember it. Other times I just feel the answer, and I start typing and the answer emerges on the page. He had just been reading the work of the linguist Noam Chomsky. There are piles of books in his study. He ordered books from the library all the time. I always feel that the closer you get to the original sources, the better off you are, he said. Langan seemed content. He had farm animals to take care of, and books to read, and a wife he loved. It was a much better life than being a bouncer. I don't think there's anyone smarter than me out there, he went on. I have never met anyone like me, or never seen even an indication that there is someone who actually has better powers of comprehension. Never seen it, and I don't think I'm going to. I could. My mind is open to the possibility. But if anyone should challenge me, I think I'm smarter than you are, I think I could have them. What he said sounded boastful, but it wasn't really. It was the opposite, a touch defensive. He had been working for decades now, but almost none of what he had done had ever been published, much less even read by the physicists and philosophers and mathematicians who might be able to judge its value. Here he was, a man with a 1 in a million mind, and he had yet to make any impact on the world. He wasn't holding forth at academic conferences. He wasn't leading a graduate seminar at some prestigious university. He was living in a slightly tumble-down horse farm in northern Missouri, sitting on the back porch in jeans and a cut-off T-shirt. He knew how it looked. It was the great paradox of Chris Langan's genius. I have not pursued mainstream publishers as hard as I should have, he conceded. Going around, querying publishers, trying to find an agent, I haven't done it, and I'm not interested in doing it. It was an admission of defeat. Every experience he had had outside of his own mind had ended in frustration. He knew he needed to do a better job of navigating the world, but he didn't know how. He couldn't even talk to his calculus teacher, for goodness sake. These were things that others with lesser minds could master easily, but that's because those others had had help along the way, and Chris Langan never had. It wasn't an excuse. It was a fact. He'd had to make his way alone, and no one, not rock stars, not professional athletes, not software billionaires, and not even geniuses, ever makes it alone. Chapter 5. The 3 Lessons of Joe Flom. Mary got a quarter. Joe Flom is the last living named partner of the law firm Skadden, Arps, Slate, Marr & Flom. He has a corner office high above the Condé Nast Tower in Manhattan. He is short and slightly hunched. His head is large, framed by long, prominent ears, and his narrow blue eyes are hidden by oversized aviator-style glasses. He is slender now, but during his heyday Flom was extremely overweight. He waddles when he walks. He doodles when he thinks. He mumbles when he talks. And when he makes his way down the halls of Skadden Arps, conversations drop to a hush. Flom grew up in the Depression in Brooklyn's Borough Park neighborhood. His parents were Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe. His father, Isidore, was a union organizer in the garment industry, who later went to work sewing shoulder pads for women's dresses. His mother worked at what was called piecework, doing applique at home. They were desperately poor. His family moved nearly every year when he was growing up, because the custom in those days was for landlords to give new tenants a month's free rent, and without that his family could not get by. In junior high school, Flom took the entrance exam for the elite Townsend Harris Public High School on Lexington Avenue in Manhattan, a school that in just 40 years of existence produced 3 Nobel Prize winners, 6 Pulitzer Prize winners, and 1 Supreme Court justice, not to mention George Gershwin and Jonas Salk, the inventor of the polio vaccine. He got in. His mother would give him a dime in the morning for breakfast, 3 donuts, orange juice, and